the latest that's coming out of the Russia and Ukraine conflict, as Russia has warned the United States against supporting Ukraine army by sending high-powered missiles. We'll be breaking it down with Dr. Gerald Horn to give us the latest about that situation. Also, can we talk about, can labeling inner-city violence as mass shooting change the dynamic and help to stop the violence in the Black community? We'll have that conversation, a big conversation that people are having across the country. Also later, folks, let's talk about Juneteenth, how trademarking Juneteenth Joy, is it necessary that we start to trademark holidays that mean something to us, as we now are seeing and living in an age where things are being co-opted? We have that conversation. So all of that and a whole lot more. We got Culture Crew B Fly and Jules P on deck. So stay with us. It's happening right now, right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into this conversation. First thing, it always seems to be something happening over the weekend that we have to have this discussion about, giving you the latest updates around Ukraine and the Russian conflict, a conflict that has lasted for more than 100 days at this point, and certainly a conflict that has engulfed so many other countries from around the globe to be a part of it. And folks, let me just tell you, we've been saying it here on this show for the past few weeks. The United States is intimately involved in this conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and so much so that Russian President Vladimir Putin has decided to put out a little warning to the United States about the level of support that the United States has been given to Ukraine. Now, here's the latest around that situation, folks. Check this out. It's been reported that President Putin, he said it in an address on an interview on Sunday, that Russia would strike new targets if the West supplied longer range missiles to Ukraine for use in high precision mobile rocket systems. Now, as we stand right now, it has been already reported that the capital city of Kyiv has been under fire from Russian missiles. The United States certainly has not ruled out sending has ruled out sending its own troops to Ukraine and NATO troops to Ukraine as well. But the conflict continues to get heated up because it seems to be that Russia is still not happy about the support it has, the lack of support it has gotten from the world, and the support that the world has been given to Ukraine, particularly from the United States. Here to break this all down and give us some more insight and analysis about this, we have been talking to Dr. Gerald Horn, who is a professor of African American history, and he has been a man of foreign policy. And we are so happy to be joining, to have him joining us. And in a few moments, we'll be bringing in Culture Crew members B Fly and Jules P. So let's bring in Professor Gerald Horn into this. Dr. Gerald Horn, thank you so much, brother, for being a part of this conversation. Doc, it always seems to happen on Monday, so it's enough. We already know that some big news is going to be happening. But this latest warning, Russia has been warning the United States about its involvement in this conflict for the past few weeks. This warning how much weight does this particular warning from President Vladimir Putin, how much weight, how much should we be concerned that Russia is saying stop supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles? Tell us about the severity of that warning.
It is the ultimate severe warning. Keep in mind, we're talking about the most potent nuclear-armed nation on planet Earth when we're speaking of Russia. Keep in mind as well that as we speak, there is a major U.S. Navy flotilla off the water of Russia in Swedish waters, engaged in army exercises that Moscow does not approve of as well. Keep in mind as well that with regard to support from the world, if you look at this morning's U.S. New York Times, you will see a front page article above the fold about Macky Sall, the leader of Senegal in West Africa, and also the titular chair of the African Union, the continental-sized organization based in Ethiopia. He was just in Sochi, Russia, conferring with what the New York Times called, quote, my dear friend Vladimir. That is to say, that supposedly what President Macky Sall, that's how he addressed Vladimir Putin. Obviously, he was there to make an appeal with regard to more grain and more wheat southward to Africa, particularly since on the Horn of Africa, there are conditions emerging that seem to be rising to the level of famine. And in that context, keep in mind the recent legislation carried by Congressional Black Caucus member Gregory Meeks of Southeast Queens, New York, the chairperson of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who has pushed legislation that would call for sanctioning African nations who do not go along with sanctions against Russia. Now, this is not being greeted with warmth amongst many of his constituents, because many of his constituents are asking, why should Africa get in the middle of this dispute between Moscow and Washington and Kiev? This is the reluctance that we see with regard to Africa joining into this conflict. And you also see the dissent towards U.S. policy expressed as we speak, as the Summit of the Americas convenes in Los Angeles. This is a meeting of nations in the hemisphere. Mexico has decided to boycott. President Lopez Obrador is not coming because the United States has not extended an invitation to Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, supposedly because of human rights violations in those three countries. But alas, as we speak, President Joe Biden is dickering to go to Saudi Arabia, human rights violator number one, in an effort to get the Saudis to pump more oil so that the price of gasoline in the pump does not head past $10 a gallon, which I understand is the price now in Mendocino County in California. So for the Biden administration, the beat of problems continues.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to take a quick pause. We're going to continue our conversation. I want to take a quick break. Folks, stay with us. We're going to get into a lot more as we talk about this Russia-Ukraine conflict and the implications of this big warning coming from Moscow. So stay with us. A lot to get to on the culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. New, unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's? there are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change. Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience as we fight these interlocking injustices together.
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third Reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
And folks, welcome back to the show. We are kicking off the conversation talking about the latest as it comes out of Russia and the Ukraine conflict. As Vladimir Putin, the president for Russia, has sent out a strong warning of against the United States support of Ukraine by supplying the United States with a number of military artillery. And part of that is long-range missiles. And so we've been having this conversation. Take a look here, folks. He warns against supplying Ukraine longer-range missiles and said that the more that the United States continues to support Ukraine with this artillery, new targets in Ukraine will be established and will be engaged with. Now, we already know that missiles have been falling on the capital city of Kyiv for the past few hours, and there are still some great concerns that Russia could do some major damage in this whole conflict, especially to the country of Ukraine. So we've been talking to Dr. Gerald Horne, who we've been having since the beginning of this discussion in this conflict, to break it down for us to understand how serious the situation is. And Dr. Horne, again, thank you so much, sir, for being with us on the show. When you look back at how this whole thing started and where we're going at this point, and I wanted to just kind of key in on something that you mentioned, like this is not just rhetoric, or is it? Because I want to make sure that our listeners understand that this, when Putin is putting out certain things like saying that he is warning the United States, what's not just what's behind it, but more importantly, what are the implications of that warning?
Well, Farajii, if you step out of that studio and somebody pulls a gun on you, you should assume that they're serious. The United States is facing, as we speak, thousands of missiles from Moscow, from Russia, pointed at the United States. It's likely that as we speak, there are Russian submarines off the coast of Washington, D.C., and off the coast of New York with nuclear weapons. This has to be taken quite seriously. Certainly, I'm sure that the Pentagon takes it quite seriously, which is why they have a Navy flotilla, as noted, off the coast of Russia in the waters of Sweden. But keep in mind as well that even without a war, which is what I'm suggesting, this conflict is already having real world consequence. Reference my statement of a moment or two ago about the price of gasoline at the pump. When you sanction Russia, a major oil producer, and you sanction Iran, a major oil producer, you sanction Venezuela, a major oil producer, inevitably you drive up the price of a barrel of petroleum to the detriment of U.S. consumers, who are not seeing concomitantly a hike in wages, which is basically meaning that we are all facing a wage cut, not least because of this conflict in Ukraine.
Dr. Horn, you're making an excellent point. I want to let's bring in our culture crew, Jules P., who is an artist and activist, and let's bring in B. Fly, who is also the founder of one of the co-founders for Blackwater Production House, and is an artist and activist as well. Jules and B. Fly, when you hear this situation, we talked about this over the past couple of weeks. This, how things have been moving. What are some of the big concerns that either one of you are having? Jules, I'll start with you, brother. What's one of the big concerns as we're seeing this type of rhetoric being said from Russia?
My question is definitely for Dr. Horn, because I know that we've been talking about this for the past 4 weeks. And what I wanted to know is, do we have a counter for knowing this was coming already? Like, we knew once we jumped into this conflict dealing with Ukraine, that we knew Putin was going to target us. So did the U.S. already know beforehand, jumping in? What was their counter idea of thinking, hey, once we get involved, we know Russia's going to come full force and direct their energy towards us? So what was the mentality thinking from when, we jumped in? Did they have any plan to say, all right, well, if Putin jumps in, we already have a counterpunch for that? Or is it just like we're just out here on a whim to do it?
My brother, I think it's more of the latter. I think that the United States has made a fundamental error, an error that a country like this should never make. It has underestimated its antagonists. Recall that the late Senator John McCain of Arizona disparagingly referred to Russia as a gas station masquerading as a great power. We know that if you look at the newspapers, even today, you'll see references to Russia as a kind of upper volta with missiles, comparing it to a now defunct African nation, now known as Burkina Faso, was seen as the ultimate insult. Obviously, the Pentagon and the State Department has underestimated Russia, which is why the United States is scrambling to come up with a game plan. So if they had listened to Jules P., perhaps they would have had a plan, but they did not listen to Jules P., and so now we're in deep trouble.
Which makes no sense at all. I mean, I feel like that's a part of the plan that we messed up, because again, it's like putting your nose in people's business without having an escape plan for, hey, let's figure this out fully, because we got to understand there's going to be a counterattack for anything we join in and involve in. So, I mean, I definitely appreciate that, Doc, but I mean, it's still just, to me, baffles me, because it makes no sense at all.
Well, I'm afraid that you, oh, sorry.
Hey, Doc. I appreciate trying to see work.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low-Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new unsettling force, and we are powerful. New unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk, and we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change. Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience as we fight these interlocking injustices together.
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third Reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.
Justice is coming soon.
Hey, do you believe that of today?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The black. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation. Only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
All right. Right.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new unsettling force, and we are powerful. A new unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk, and we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change. Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience. As we fight these interlocking injustices together,
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.
Justice is coming soon. Hey, do you believe that of today?
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Essentially, her son has learned about being a black man, i.e., viewed from the critical race theory. And when he came home, he started to act differently. So differently, like not doing his chores, not doing what his mother's asked him to do, because he kept saying to his mother that it's racism, that she was asking him as a black boy to do these things.
Being taught in any public schools in America.
Critical race theory is not taught in schools. Critical race theory is not taught in any K through 12 school in America.
That's a lie, and a dangerous one. Critical race theory is being taught in American classrooms, and it's damaging the way our children view the world. Melissa Riley saw the radical curriculum at her 13-year-old son's middle school in Virginia. Melissa's son is biracial, but he'd never talked about his race or racial issues until the school forced it on him. Melissa is now suing his school, claiming they brainwashed her son. Melissa Riley joins me now, along with her attorney, Ryan Bangert, Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel. All right, so Melissa, your son is, the father's black, you're white, and he'd never mentioned issues with race before, you're saying? What exactly changed?
Right, we didn't have issues before. He's in 8th grade. They introduced this critical program, and now he's having racial issues that was not there before.
What kind of racial issues is he having?
Well, he's seen himself just as a black man. He's seen things that don't go his way as racism, and he's finding safety in numbers now.
So when you're saying he gets a bad grade at school, he blames racism, or a girl rejects him on a date, racism, are those the kind of things you're seeing?
Yes, I ask him to clean the house, racism, yes.
You're kidding, right? Or are you serious?
No, I'm serious. They have totally changed his perspective. They have put him in a box.
So you're saying he doesn't want to do his chores because that's racist?
He's using it as an excuse because they've told him that that's how people see him, is as a black man that the world is against, and shows it as a negative now.
All right, so counselor, you're going to litigate this because obviously this is brainwashing and it's having a deleterious effect on this young man's brain. Is the school fighting back? What are they saying? Oh, we don't teach this, we don't do this?
Well, they certainly are fighting back, and they don't deny what they're teaching. They just simply think it's fine. They think it's okay, but it's not okay. It's never okay. It's never right for a school to teach kids that they're determined entirely by their race. It's never okay for a school to tell kids that bigotry should be fought with bigotry and racism should be fought by doubling down on racism. Those things are not okay. They're violations of students' civil rights.
Melissa, have you seen the materials that your son is studying that infected his brain?
Yes.
And what do they say?
I talked to the school as well.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yes. So when this program was put into motion, I talked to the school, and they told me that he could be a black spokesperson for the black community. When I told him I didn't think that that would be appropriate, they told me that if he was uncomfortable with the conversations, he and other children of color could go to a safe place during these conversations, and that's segregation.
Oh, boy. And your son's father, who's African-American, how does he feel about all this?
I'm a single mom.
Okay.
So I'm teaching him everything. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's tough, and we salute you for that. And we hope everything works out and your son gets out of this phase and he can learn about writing and arithmetic instead of critical race theory. I think that would be better for him and better for everybody. Thank you guys, and good luck, and Godspeed, Melissa.
Woo! That's a lot to unpack, folks. That's a lot to unpack.
Can I start off by saying that her son is like such a smart ass?
the fact that he took critical race theory and used that as an excuse to get out of doing everything around the house, it's pretty genius. Clearly he wanted to rile up his mom and get her upset, and he succeeded in doing that. I'm gonna just start there. Farajii, were you not weirded out though by the very beginning when she wouldn't say critical race theory? She wouldn't even use the word race. Like, did you?
And see, that's the problem that I'm having. Like, okay,
there's so many issues with this.
Like, this is the problem that I'm having. All right, let me. All right.
Can we start with what critical race theory actually is?
You gotta say it. You gotta say critical race theory. Like, there's no way in the lexicon of this country that people don't know it's CRT.
Right.
Critical
I'm saying
race
let's
theory.
put into perspective like what it really is.
No, and here's the I want us to have a conversation I'm glad that you there are part of this discussion, because this needs to be a very serious conversation in this respect. Because many people could be like, oh my God, this is crazy, this lady crazy. But people don't understand, especially if you're talking about Black people, if you're not Black and you marry someone that is Black and you produce a Black child, there is a responsibility on your shoulders as the parent of that child to make sure that your child understands who they are.
Which we can see that she does not. She doesn't even really want to acknowledge his Black side. So the Black D was good for her, but having the Black son, that seems to be an issue. But it wasn't an issue for her to lie down with a Black man and conceive a child, but she can't even use the term race. I'm not understanding. That's the first conversation that I want to have with her. What made it okay for you to lie down unprotected and have sex with a Black man, but you're operating from a racist point of view? If you watch that video, she does not seem to be proud to have a Black son. She does not seem like she's embracing his Blackness, that she even wants him to understand or know that his skin color does mean something. And then she doesn't even understand what critical race theory is, because if she ever took a moment to say, well, you know what? Let me see, what is critical race theory? In itself.
No,
that in itself. Exactly. She doesn't even know what it is herself. So you're upset that your child is learning that the institutions in America, i.e. our social justice system, education system, that they aren't steeped in racism. You can honestly say that. It's just like, wake up, lady. She's living in this bubble that she's created, or that she's been, I don't know, possibly raised in. But I'm just very curious as to how she even ended up with a Black man. I think that's the part that I'm kind of like.
I think that's the $64,000 question, right? Like you
don't like Black people,
right? Like, you don't sound like you like Black people, let alone having a Black child.
Yeah.
All right, I want to bring some comments in, because
it was a fantasy of hers that she had in college or some shit.
Maybe, and maybe that's why it didn't work out. Maybe that's why she's a single mom at this point. I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know. Let's start posting some comments, Keenan, because a lot of people are want to check it in right now. Damon, I know my man Damon has something to say, boy. Damon, she didn't even know what to call it. That critical thing.
Right, Damon. I was like, what?
Oh, man.
She knew what to call it.
Sucks.
She didn't want to say the word.
Right. All right, Oil King. Check this out. Oil King said, the boy just doesn't want to do his chores, and these white folks trying to use it against us.
Exactly. It's called finessing. That's what Black people call it. Like, let me DM you some black terminology so you can relate to your Black son.
Zamara, the Slayer.
That's Xiomara.
Thank you so much. Xiomara, the Slayer. My son is mixed. I teach him he is Black. His father tells him he is not, but that he is mixed, as if there is a difference here in America. Now, that's why I said that let's have a very, very important conversation around this, because if you are in a relationship, and that's not even just have to be Black and white, it could be Asian American and Black people, Asian American and white people, Latino Black people, Latino and white people. You know what I mean? Like, it can go in so many different ways, and it's like, you have to know, like, once a child gets into the picture, you have to make an effort to make that child understand, like, yo, you are this person. Because dear, I think here's the problem I'm foreseeing, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Like this lady, Melissa Riley, your son is going to grow up in a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to think one way and look, and you talk and see, and this I think is so ironic. She talks about brainwashing of critical race theory when you don't teach your son about being a black man. He's clearly a black boy. He's clearly a black boy. What are you doing?
Babe, she has an issue. She literally said he's finding strength in numbers. That I translated that as he's starting to hang around black people. And she doesn't like it.
His mom.
It bothers his mom that he wants to hang around people who not only look like him, but can relate to the same struggles that he's going to face regardless of whether or not he has a black mom. And even we didn't get to see what he looks like, but I know biracial children who don't look biracial. And if we go to celebrities, J. Cole, if you look at J. Cole, you think he's just another light-skinned black man. You're not going to look at J. Cole and be like, oh, he has a white mom. You would look, even Shamar Moore, to me, I didn't like growing up, I didn't think of Shamar as like having a white mom. Shamar Moore was just light-skinned to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was like, I mean, he's like my complexion and I'm not mixed. You know, both of my parents are black. So it's just like, as black people, we're so many different shades and so many different colors that, you know, I can understand the dad's perspective and him saying, you know, I want to teach our son that he is mixed because 50% of him is what his dad is and the other 50% is what his mom is. But as the mother was saying, and as we just said, because black people are so many shades on the spectrum, you're classified, you're identified, you're profiled as being black.
That's it.
They don't care. When they look at your license, it doesn't say, my mom is white, my dad is black. So I was raised by my white mom.
That's it.
Not my black dad. I don't relate to my black side. No, this is not.
Hey, look.
This is not the Reconstruction period when black
Hey,
people
Nira.
are pretending to pass as white.
Let's think about one of the most famous children of biracial parents, President Obama.
Oh, for sure. For sure. The moment that he does something wrong,
he's black.
He's not even black. He's the N-word. He's the N-word.
He's the N-word. Let's go back to the comments. Tiana, she mad at her baby daddy.
Exactly.
Tiana, and you know what? And I mean, we can laugh at that, but I think that in the real sense of things, and Tiana, I think you're absolutely right. She might have some real
deep-seated
serious affairs of the heart.
Yep.
Because
did you see her response, her body, like her language when she was like, when they asked about the dad, he's not in the picture. Like, I get it. He's not in the picture. That sucks. But it was the way she said it in her body language that was like.
Well, because again, here's the thing too, dear. When we think about single mother homes, who's the first person that we think about?
Oh, a black woman.
So now here's a white woman having to carry that stigma
She done
of
got by a
being
black man
a
too.
single
Damn.
mother raising a black boy. Now it sounds like based on that interview, like she got full custody. I don't know what the dad is.
She made it sound like dad wasn't even in the
Dad
picture.
didn't even have no. So she said, "I'm teaching him everything."
Yeah.
That's the
Now that could be, but we don't know what the other side is. The dad
That's true.
this may be a situation where dad's been fighting to be a part of the kids. Like, I'm gonna be real. I do know situations like that where women are like, no, we're not together, and they just use the child as leverage, and it's crazy. I would never just be like, I want to put that all on the dad, because there are a lot of good dads out there who want to be good dads and aren't given the opportunity. So black men, I got y'all back.
No, I always got my brother's back. And here's the thing, though. The thing that I it's, and I mean, look, this is just my school of thought, folks, and this ain't, whether you agree with it or not, we could talk about it. But the fact is, a woman can't just raise a black boy by herself expecting him to be a man. It's been done.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's been done. We can go down that road and we can have all the conversation about it. Yes, we know
But you
women
gotta
raise
add
black
football
boys.
coaches. You have to add in the mentors, the uncles.
Come on, man. Like,
the big
stop acting like the
cousins,
man in a boy's life
Mr.
is not
Larry.
needed.
They need a black man. That's why we
That boy need a black man.
That's why we had the conversation about the importance of having more black male teachers.
Facts.
So if they're not in the home, at least they might be getting it in the school. We've been, but black men, I just want to say real quick, we need you in the home, or not even. And that's not to say if the relationship doesn't work, you got to stay in the home. but the child needs you on a day-to-day basis. I'm not talking about you just pop in once a month. Your child needs you. It takes two people to make a child. So there are two people needed to raise that child, whether you're in the home or not.
Yeah. JT Max said he's probably, speaking of the father, he's probably not in the picture because she keeps him out of the picture. That could be we don't know.
Very well could be.
He could be out of the picture. We don't know, right? I mean, that could be a situation. Sonia checked in and said, look, the mother is seeing how her son is breaking out of her bubble and beginning to see how his black side is being treated in America and questioning everything.
And honestly, like, yes, I think that maybe and even in his way of handling what he's learning at school, clearly I know his teacher is not teaching him that, oh, because you're black, when your mom tells you to do your chores, not to do it. That's not even what critical race theory is. That's not what he's being taught. This is him choosing this method to rebel. He's choosing to be rebellious and using, oh, well, I can't do this, mom, because, but maybe he's rebellious because, mom, you're not allowing him to learn about himself.
Yeah.
Maybe he's rebellious because you have him in a setting, constantly in a setting where he feels like he is the minority. Because let's be real, your son is the minority. When you take him out all your little country club friends, he's still going to be the minority. He's still going to have the feelings that he's feeling. And Bubble, he's about to go to high school. I don't care if you're white, black, whatever your race is. When your child starts to get around that 14-year-old mark, they are going to start branching out. I don't care if it's a two-parent household, whatever. That's the age when they start getting a lot more curious about a lot of things, and they may or may not discuss all those things with you, but they are going to try you. They're going to try their hand to see, what can I get away with? How's my parent going to respond? That's what children do. They test us. As a parent, how do you respond? Okay, bet. You don't want to do your chores? Guess what? I'm going to have to take your cell phone. That's how you handle that as a mom. Be a mom. Get some backbone.
Let's go back to the comments, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to go to Michael Smith. Keenan, let's post Michael Smith's comment because I think this is a good one as well. The children are suffering from what is known as an identity crisis. Most biracial people in this country have that problem. I would agree.
Especially when they're not getting fed from both sides.
It is.
I think you don't have to go through that just because you're biracial. First of all, you don't have to go through an identity crisis because you're biracial, period. People go through identity crisis, especially, like I said, middle schoolers. I work in a middle school. That is the age where they are most susceptible. Can't even talk today. But they're the age that they're going through puberty. They're going through all these hormonal changes. What group do I fit in with? What friends do I fit in with? Who do I want to be? Who am I? They're asking themselves a lot more serious questions. Of course, they ask themselves those questions when they're younger, but as they're starting to go through that hormonal stage, that peak right before they get to high school, they're all going through an identity crisis. They're acting out because they're going through identity crisis. They're acting out because they want attention. There's so many different reasons why children act out. That's what his mother should be trying to figure out. Instead, she would rather use her own racism, right?
Which is crazy.
To take what he's learning at school and turn it into a negative.
And turn it into
because of the way that her son is using it.
And out. And just to throw it out there, dear, the fact that she retained a lawyer.
Yeah, she's insane.
Like, you really spent some money to get somebody, and the lawyer tried to come across as being very lawyerish, right?
Yeah.
Where he says, well, they should not be, the school is violating the standards and the rules because it's encouraging a certain level of identity. Look.
That is not even, the sad part is that when educated people have come up with their own assumptions of what critical race theory is without actually learning about what critical race theory is. Critical race theory is so important. It's so important. It's important for all. First of all, we're always talking about how are we going to make change? How can we better these institutions? If you can't have real conversations about our institutions, how are we ever going to make change? Change can't just be made from the black side, and change can't just be made from the white side. Change has to be made from all participating people. We have to learn these things. Our children, especially black children, They do need to learn how to move in this country. They do need to learn how the financial institutions are going to treat them, how our judicial system is going to treat them, and so much more. Like, it's pure ignorance, and it's Fox News. And so for me, watching Fox News is like watching SNL. It's comedy, and it's just, but it's sad because it's dripped in people that are actually truly blindfolded. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are the people that are really living in denial. It's not everybody else.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome to the second hour of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. First and foremost, I want to say we apologize for the tech issues that we have. We have obviously resolved them. And so what we're going to do is tomorrow, we've invited back Dr. Gerald Horne to give us his analysis on everything that's happening with the Russian-Ukraine conflict. And certainly we didn't want to rush through that conversation. So Dr. Horne agreed to joining us tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that conversation. And I just personally want to say I thank you and thank you for your patience as we work through our tech issues. We truly, truly appreciate it. Big shout out to my Culture Crew online community, man. Y'all always holding us down here on the Culture. So y'all just make this thing so much easier when we're trying to make everything work out with technology and all of that good stuff. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, folks, in this second hour, we plan to talk to the mayor of Youngstown, Ohio, to talk to us a little bit about what happened at the U.S. Conference of Mayors last week. Remember, we talked to Mayor Van Johnson of Savannah, Georgia. Now, today we're going to be talking to the mayor of Youngstown to give us the take of what happened at the conference, the U.S. Conference of Mayors that happened in Reno over the weekend, what came out of that discussion. So I can't wait to hear from the mayor in a few moments with that. And then also, let's talk about something I thought that was really interesting about Juneteenth, where a Black man trademarked the name Juneteenth Joy. If you haven't heard this story, you're going to definitely want to tune in for it. We'll be having that conversation in a little bit. So at this point, I want to welcome to the airways of the Black Star Network here on The Culture. We are joined by the mayor of Youngstown, Ohio. This is Mayor Jamil Tito Brown. Is Mayor Brown on the line with us yet?
I am.
All right, Mayor Brown, how are you, sir?
I'm good, my brother. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Mayor Brown, thank you so much for joining us as you check in and representing the great city of Youngstown, Ohio.
Right. Buckeyes in the house.
I hear that.
Buckeyes.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, you know that we know that last week we talked to Mayor Van Johnson from Savannah, Georgia, about some of the big expectations and some of the things that we need to know as this mayor's U.S. Conference of Mayors started. Now the conference is over. What were some of the big discussions that came out of the conference, Mr. Mayor?
One of the bigger things, is the obvious piece. We talked about gun violence. We talked about the violence on our streets, not just in Youngstown, but across the nation. But for me, it was good to hear what other mayors were doing to solve that issue. But also we talked about advocacy for mayors across the nation, what we could do collectively as a body. And that was probably one of the bigger issues. We talked about homeless. We really talked about those kitchen table conversations. We talked about the homeless population and figuring out how do we get those individuals who don't have homes or are couch surfing to get them stable housing. And it really played a great role for us because the Secretary of HUD, Marsha Fudge, was here as well, who was a former mayor, and she really laid it out about what mayors could be doing as it talks about the gun violence, but also about affordable housing. So those are kind of the big pieces that stood out. And then the third thing, we really focused on the American Rescue Plan dollars that are out there. How are we going to spend them? We shared. I always say we swap recipes. I heard from a mayor in Toledo. I heard from a mayor in Georgia what they're doing with their ARPA funds, and we shared as well what we're going to do with ours in Youngstown, Ohio.
And so, I mean, you're talking about the violence. You're talking about that extra funding, and I know another part of the debate nationally is the gun control situation with these mass shootings. First and foremost, Mr. Mayor, I mean, how is your city handling that conversation, and what are some of the things that might be working in Youngstown that we need to consider in other cities across the country as it relates to this gun debate?
In Ohio, I'll start with statewide. We're carriers permits in the city in the state of Ohio anymore, and you have to even have a driver's license to learn how to operate a vehicle. But now they've taken away. You don't have to have a permit, no education on how to take care of a gun. We're talking about responsible gun owners, and one of the things we've been advocating for is responsible gun ownership in the city and across the state. Unfortunately, we get our state legislators who really have kind of turned a dark eye, and I'll use that, a dark eye, to what's happening to the urban communities or the communities in general. And you look at what's happening across, Texas, Buffalo, just across our nation with, you can buy a gun and why do you need an AR-15? Those are the conversations we're talking about. But the bigger piece we really focus on is the prevention. How do we get to our young people early? Talk about some conflict resolution, but also we want to talk about some mental health issues. If you look at every time I tell my community, if you see something that happens on the 6 o'clock news, violent crime, believe me, there's a young child associated somewhere down the line connected to that. We want to make sure that we teach our kids conflict resolution, but give our young men and women some options other than the life on the street. So we have a program we call SERVE, it's Citizens Initiative to Reduce Violence. We focus on giving them opportunities to get their driver's license. If they had some checkered flag in their past, we work with companies to say, listen, give them a chance. I send letters of reference as the mayor in Ohio. So employment and pieces like that are critical for us in the city of Youngstown.
And it is so critical, I think, in a larger conversation, right, Mr. Mayor, like to provide opportunities where people can find themselves in a better space in their life. And then I think, of course, you just mentioned it. We here on this show, we talked about, yes, the conversation is about gun access, and yes, and certainly talk about mental health. But I think one of the intangibles is the fact that we have a culture of violence in this country where we like to celebrate and glorify violent outcomes, violent behavior, violent ways to handle any type of conflict. Is there anything that you would recommend as a public servant that we can help to change that culture, whether it's from the government side or the constituent side?
I mean, you think about it, one of the most violent things that we have other than guns is our television, the media, how we portray anything, our games, our kids are watching. We want to focus on, it's become, guns, guts, and glory for our children, what they're watching. One of the things we recommend is, it's very, very intentional access for our kids to find their alternatives. Arts, we really want to focus on the art aspect of individuals, no matter what. And, everyone has some type of talent. I couldn't draw, but I was in drama. I can act a little bit. I can impersonate somebody really well. So really exposing our kids to arts is going to be a key essential. But the other thing is just exposing our children to other opportunities in life. Realizing 2 generations of families. I'm very upfront about it. My dad was in and out of prison most of my life, and he was the main one who explained to me. He says, "Listen, I've done enough jail time for you. You don't have to go to jail." So we get to start breaking those generational cycles. And for my father, he broke the cycle and said, "I've done enough jail time. You don't have to." He said, "I want you to be much better than me." So we've got to really start focusing on those generational issues, breaking them up, and exposing our kids to other opportunities in life.
Absolutely. Folks, we're talking to Youngstown, Ohio Mayor, Mayor Tito Brown, Mayor Jamel Tito Brown. I want to bring in my culture crew, Mr. Mayor. These are dynamic leaders from around the country to weigh in on these conversations. We're joined by hip hop artist Mr. Jules P. And we're also joined by the co-founder of Black Waterhouse Productions, and she's an artist herself and an activist, B Fly. B Fly, what's your question or your thoughts for Mr. Mayor Tito Brown?
So, good evening, everybody. How are we doing today? Peace, Black
Good,
people.
B. What's happening?
Good.
So, Mayor, how do you deal with the offshoots of redlining in your city? How do you combat or embrace gentrification? What does that look like in Youngstown? Is your city divided by an economic red line the same way Baltimore is, or are you free from that system?
No, thanks for the question. We're very much hindered by that, and it's been a long time system that we've been dealing with. So we'll talk about redlining first. Redlining, the way I've looked at it is, for me as sitting in the seat as mayor of the city of Youngstown, now we're really focusing on letting the banks understand, the ones that our city we bank with. We have a big budget where we're spending money with these lenders. We're bringing them to the table and say, listen, you've got to reinvest back into the communities, but I don't want you just to reinvest in a small sum or give us down payment. I want you to really invest in individuals becoming homeowners. And I look at my mother and how she owns her own home, but there's issues. We have only 2 or 3 zip codes in our city where everyone's at the poverty level. So we've got to make sure that they understand that homeownership is the way to change that whole scenario about poverty. So we focused on that, making sure that we keep them accountable at the table, but also we make sure that we bring those who want it through the process, and we just don't drop them off and walk away. We nurture them through the process, because there's a difference between being a renter of a home and home ownership. When you're a renter, you call the landlord and say something's broke. When you're a homeowner, when something's broke, you got to figure out how do you pay for it. So we focus on that, and gentrification is really for us. We're a town of about 60,000 people. We don't necessarily see it often. We're starting to see some development. We had one or two developments that actually happened, and it was prior to me becoming mayor. And I talked to them. We removed the whole neighborhood, but when I went to start talking to the families and asking, well, how was that and how did that happen? Many of them told me they did not lose out on that case. So gentrification sometimes is not a bad word, but it's also a word that you need to make sure that those who are leaving, they left and gained something out of the deal. But so we don't see it as often, but sometimes the university or the hospital will make some expansions, but we make sure that individuals don't lose out and they can continue some generational wealth from that issue.
Mr. Mayor, when we look at that level of you talk about gentrification, and to B's point, that whole issue of redlining, excuse me, talk to us a little bit about how has the Black community of Youngstown, Ohio, been hit by that, and how have they been dealing with that?
That's the bigger piece. It almost feels like for me, it's just the mayor and being born and raised in my community all my life. You watch individuals who decide that they want to stay in that neighborhood. I can tell you there's several neighborhoods where they want to stay, they really will focus on how do I improve on that community. So we've not had a lot of pushback on it, but we've not had a great deal of it happening. So what I'm explaining to those investing, the landlords or the landowners who are coming in, I don't want you just to invest where you think that it's going to be a great return on your dollar. I want you to invest in some of those zip codes where our families are suffering to help them rise and give them access to a quality of life as well.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Jules, what's your question for Mr. Mayor? Jules, are you on mute?
Hey, Mayor.
Oh, there you go.
I got you. My question is basically around, you were talking about the gun violence and, discussing the mass shootings going across the country and how Ohio, spend that part. Is it youth organizations that are playing the major role? Because a lot of the crimes that we're dealing with in the city are with youth. So are youth organizations or organizations targeting the youth the focus of trying to end the gun violence or trying to control the gun violence in the city?
Yeah, the piece we're really focusing on is getting to our children earlier than later, and not that I'm throwing any generation away, but I really believe that we need to get connected to those who at an earlier age. I think that when you were kind of breaking up, but I think the question is, are we engaging our youth, which we are. We're actually, for me as mayor, this conference, I would have brought a group of youth with me to the conference, but the date was a little earlier in June. Our kids were still in school. But I have a mayor's youth council, and I use that group and organizations to really figure out what's going on in their world. It's one thing for me to plan for them, but I need to plan with them what their future looks like. And like I said, I grew up here. They'll tell you what's going on, but you've got to build that trust. So we're in the schools now. We have some of what we call our violence interrupters. They're in the schools, really just holding open forums. Just let's talk about it. And it's not, I'm not targeting one specific young man or lady. I'm saying, hey, you guys want to come by? And when we chop it up, you want to chop it up in the school system. And we're finding that they really like to take that time that they normally would have a study hall to sit down with our violence interrupters and really ask them tough questions. If you've ever had any youth on here and some young people on here, their mind is so brilliant, they can ask them questions that we don't necessarily think about, but it gets you to thinking. So that helps me, to really stay on my game. They say stay on your toes so you can stay on your feet. That's where we go. They keep me on my toes.
Absolutely. I'm sure they do. I'm sure they keep me on my toes here in Baltimore, Mr. Mayor. Everywhere we go.
Yes, sir.
Black youth keep you on your toes. We got some questions coming in from our watchers from across the country, Mr. Mayor. Karen M. checked in and she said, I'm wondering what kind of support the mayor has and from who and where, what city council makeup, school board, chamber of commerce.
You know what? One of the things that I'm very proud of, we're a family in the community. If you got your family, it's a family dynamics. We don't all agree. I think, but we all can get along to realize what the end product is. My council works really well with me. My chamber of commerce. Ironically enough, I'm working on I just started my second term. That's my 5th year. When I came into office, we didn't have relationships with many individuals, and for whatever reason, the previous mayors decided they got in a silo and they didn't want to be involved. For me, I grew up, I'm the only child, so I had to learn how to play different rules on different sides of town, different neighborhoods. So if I wanted to build relationships, the only way you're going to get things done in the world, I don't care if you're elected official, the garbage man, the trash man, or the librarian, you're still going to have to build relationships. So we're building relationships that we didn't have and strengthening those that we did have. I think the prime example of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, when you come into mayor's conference, you don't know if the mayor's a Republican or a Democrat. All you know is they're mayors, and we have some of the same issues. So that's how I govern. I say I'm only time that I'm partisan is when it's on Sunday afternoon when my football team is playing. If you're not betting on my football team, then I don't want to be bothered with you. But any other time, I can work on both sides of the aisle. I think I heard your earlier caller talking about you need both sides of the aisle, but also only way you're going to make good music, you need the white key and the black key to really put things together. And that's what we're seeing more and more. We can't make good music by ourselves. We're going to need some of your allies, and your allies are going to look like any of us right here today to get things done. And when they stand up for the issues that we're pushing, we get a greater help with one another.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike V checked in on our YouTube page, Mr. Mayor. He said Youngstown used to be a major industrial power in the 20th century. Bad policy in the 80s and 90s dismantled that. With fourth industrialization emerging, the mayor has to focus on developing the Black capital. How true is that? Is that the case for that history? And is there a focus on Black capital?
Yeah, absolutely correct. We're a legacy city. It'll be in 2027. It'll be 50 years from Black Monday, where our steel mill shut down. We were a product of the Southern migration, where the families from Mississippi, Alabama, all came up from work and jobs. When the steel mill closed down, Youngstown did not shift and pivot to a different industry. But right now, we're at a point, like I said, 2027 will be 50 years since that happened, and we're now just realizing the jobs are not coming back. So we focus more now on advanced manufacturing, 3D printing, but also small business owners. We always want to bring in, everyone said, let's get some more business in. I believe in focusing on who's already there, those who are already invested in our community. And one of the pieces we talked about with the ARPA funds was really making sure the minority business owners, before the pandemic, many of them were not bankable. They didn't know what having a personal banker was about. So we're focusing a lot of our monies and time and making sure if the entrepreneurs want to have capital, they want to invest, that we get them the same track and even the playing field for them like everyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that people across this country are trying to figure out, Mr. Mayor, is how do we get the most out of these places, right? We have talked about here on this show that there has been a great migration of Black folks in particular that have moved from the northern parts of the country, Midwestern parts, to the southern portion, because they're looking for new opportunities. They're looking for, places that will bring more money. And so it becomes this, Black capital has to be one of the drawing points for any city in America. If you want Black folks to come into your city, if you're trying to encourage diversity, there has to be a pathway that Black people can become strong entrepreneurs, make the money that they want to make, and then live the quality of life that we all deserve to live.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things I need to do a job as mayor and any other mayor, you've got to realize what those talents are in your community and help nurture that, help coach them along. If you're not a business owner, find them a mentor who's a business owner. And I don't want just the average business owner. I got some Black entrepreneurs in my community. They've gone through some struggle. They filed bankruptcy, but they're still in business, and they can tell you it's not that they get knocked down, it's the fact that they got back up and they continued on. But we also look at, when you have a business, sometimes you got to be real truthful with someone. You got to say, that you're not putting enough time in, or that you can't get stagnant with your product. You say, well, you only made $100,000 last year. Oh, that's great. You should be wanting to make 200, 300,000 every year. You got to make sure those metrics are there. Yep. But also we want to put, like I said, I really want the support system there for these individuals to get there. If it's not from the mayor's office, there's an accountability or piece that I can say, I can be the organizer, bringing those to the table that can help them make sure they get the capital. But also, sometimes it's not just the capital, it's the network. How do I get my product into the stores? I have some small business owners, they're trying to get into the grocery stores and the networking. They might not be able to get in the room, but the mayor could make a call and say, I need to sit down with you, and here's a product that I need to see on your shelves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Karen also posted this question. She said, Farajii, does the city intentionally work with Black-owned banks regarding small business support, etc.?
You know what? One of the things I can be honest with you, I don't have any Black-owned banks in my area.
Wait a minute, hold on. You ain't got no Black-owned banks in Youngstown, Mr. Mayor?
No, sir, not at all. No.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
that's an opportunity right there.
That's my point. I was going to finish by saying I know individuals who's trying to work through one, but he's out of Columbus. That's like 3 hours away from me. So wow, there's economic opportunity here for that. But this is the piece. I mean, that's another opportunity, another conversation to have. I welcome that. We've had some of our local churches who decided at one time they wanted to build a new sanctuary. The bank that they had been banking with for, let's say, over 20 or 30 years turned them down. And they decided, you know what we're going to do? we're going to take all of our money out of that bank and said, who's the bank that wants our money so we can build this new sanctuary? Somebody stepped up and said, I'll take that deal. But no black owned banks were available at that time. But we had some banks that started realizing when you start talking capital, the only thing that looks good for capital is not black, white, or it's only green. So that's what if you're a bank, you need to realize it's all about the green. My ROI, what's my return on my dollar?
Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I did not know that at all. All right. So Linda asked a question, Mr. Mayor. She said, what proclamations are being signed into office to help the black community, and what kind of reforms does he have planned to bring the police and black people together?
Well, the big one is our infant mortality. Racism is a health issue, disparity. We did that one. But for me, my babies are dying 4 times as fast at the city of Youngstown, and we've declared that an emergency in our community, in our county. So we're focusing on trying to get our babies to see their first birthday, but also we want to make sure that our mothers are able to be healthy and strong during their birth. So that's a big piece that we've been focusing on, the health disparity. The pandemic really showed us how the health disparity is happening in the brown and black communities more than anywhere else. But the other piece, I think, is talking about the police reform. We're doing body-worn cameras now. We're doing diversity training every year. But also we're bringing the citizens in to do some interactive conversation pieces with the police officers and to really ask, so the police will answer questions, but also be able to put questions out there of the citizens and what would you like to see different? How can we work better? And one of the things that we really I focus on more and more, that I have to build trust with my community. If we got to be honest about a conversation, when the crimes happen on the street, the streets know what's happening, but nobody wants to say anything. So I need to build a network of trust. An individual say, Mayor, I'm going to tell you this. I don't want my name associated with it. And I tell them, you give me the information. You don't have to tell them. If I don't recognize your voice, you don't have to give me any other information, but just tell me what you want me to know, who and what happened. And I go to my chief and I say, here's another tip that came through the mayor's office. So I try to make sure we continue to build that trust from the mayor's office. But also our police chief, he's out in the barbershops, the beauty shops, stopping and talking to them to really understand what's their needs and expectations of our community.
Have there been any proclamations signed yet, Mr. Mayor?
We've done several proclamations, and I'd be remiss if I told you I can think of them all off the top of my head.
No, it's no problem.
Anything we talk about health disparities, police reform, and we had not, and I guess to be very transparent, I'm on my new chief. My new chief just is only here, but has only been with me going on his second year. But this is my 5th year. You can do the math. I had one prior to that because I wanted to make sure that we had our officers accountable. We wanted to do body-worn cameras. The 8 can't wait. We really focused on that as well, and that was not his intention. So we had to part ways because my goal was to make sure that my people were being treated equal and equitable across the community. And our police had a great relationship with our community, and it's not going to just happen overnight. But we have pieces that we need to do from City Hall to help our citizens recognize and understand and trust us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Mayor, we truly appreciate your time to be with us today and to answer some of our questions from our panelists and our viewers. And you can always come back on, sir, to give us updates about what's happening in the great city of Youngstown, Ohio. We would love to have you, brother.
Listen, I love to get back on. I can't wait to tell my son he's 32 and he's a Breakfast Club fan, but he's also into the young generation of millennials. As I look at the faces, you guys look like some of my kids. So just know that this is your uncle or your grandfather right here. So just know I'd love to get back on and talk about it because that's how we learn. That's how we understand things. So yeah, you look like a couple of the people that used to come by my house and eat dinner with my son. So
wow,
thanks you guys. So
wow,
for sure.
I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. Black don't crack, and I ain't even think you would have a 32-year-old son. I ain't think you would have an older brother.
We didn't get into the question of what my life looked like, but I was a 17-year-old teenage father. I was becoming a senior. I was 17. So my son and I, we grew up together. We really grew up together. I got 4 children total. but I say he's my baby. He don't like anybody saying about it. Come on, that's my baby. That's my first one. Daddy can embarrass you anytime, but he'll love the fact that I'm on here and talking with you because he embraces the fact that once you get a chance to meet his dad, because I tell him this is what he has to look forward to. This is how cool you need to be. At 50, then you figure out what goes on after that, right?
I hear that. Mayor Tito Brown, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you, dear brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, listen, be safe, be kind, just be yourself. Thank you.
I love it. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's have a conversation about Juneteenth Joy and Trademark. I was thinking of B-Fly. B, I was thinking about you when coming up and working on the show today. I said B is going to love having a conversation about how to trademark, how to really burnish your legacy. And I want to have this discussion. So we'll talk about Juneteenth Joy and a whole lot more. Plus, I got something for you for post trends and for trends posts and doing the most. So stay with us. It's all happening on the last 30 of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans distributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We had a great conversation with the mayor of Youngstown, Ohio, Mayor Jamil Tito Brown, as I talk to my culture crew. Let me bring in B Fly and Jules P here. B Fly and Jules. Here's one of the things that I personally thought was a great opportunity, and I'm posing this question in the chat. I thought they don't have a black bank in Youngstown. They don't have a black bank in Youngstown. So I asked two of our loyal watchers, Brother Kingley and Karen M, do you think that a credit union or a black bank? Let me bring Jules in. Let's bring B Fly in. Can we bring him back in for real quick to have this? I thought, and I'm gonna get to my next, but that really just kind of just like hit me a little bit in the head. It was like, y'all don't have a black bank?
But Farajii,
and I'm not mad, and I get it.
Every city, and I realized in that moment too that it is not that black banks are not in every city of America. Like they're not connected to every major city. Like, is there even a Harbor Bank in Ohio? Like where?
Probably not.
And then what are the list of the black banks? And so, but that opens up a plethora. It opens up a whole other can. Like I need to see a map with some pins. Like where every city that I have been in has had a black bank, but I've always lived in major black cities. So is that a black privilege? Is that black privilege? Is that how we navigate? Like, do we try and cross-reference our locations with cities that also have black banks in order to draw another map? Like what is this? Like I need a map, and I need some pins, and I need some Post-its so I can see this pattern. There's a pattern that we need to identify here.
No, I think you're right, B, because like I've always gone and hung out in like major cities, right? Just the big cities, and there's an expectation. Like it don't hit you, Jules, until you realize like we're still like opening up the market.
There you go.
In 2022, like we're still at the place of being the first black in 2022
in almost everything.
And it's still mind blowing. Like when you think about how much influence we got on the culture of this country, and I don't care what nobody say, black folks, we brought culture to everything from sports to entertainment to business, to politics, to education, to healthcare. I mean, we brought a lot of culture, and there's just still not break the glass ceiling or the barrier in certain spaces, certain industries.
Because we still operate in silos, and I think that's an important part of these mayoral conferences. So we can stop operating in these silos, in a sense, it's great that our states are able to somewhat govern themselves, so we don't have this overall master dictating what goes on directly from Compton to Alaska, right?
Right.
But when we have gaps from Compton to Alaska, to Ohio, to Kansas, whose responsibility is it to seal those fundamental infrastructural gaps within the community, to extend the Black community into the rest of the fabric
That is
of
the
the
question,
full
B.
city.
That's the
Or
question.
But do we want that?
No, I think we
Every
do. I mean, like,
where?
if I'm mistaken, Jules, he said 60,000 people live in Youngstown, right? 60,000. So what Youngstown has, and I've been to smaller cities, like you have Youngstown with 60,000. I never forget traveling to Chester, Pennsylvania. I know if you live in Philly, y'all know where Chester is, right? If you've been in Chester, PA. And I remember this was years ago. And one of the things that I was told about Chester was like it was pretty much like a majority black town with like a black population of like over 90% at the time. And they had like one school, you know what I mean, like one middle school, one high school, and that type of thing. And I always thought to myself, damn, I wish I could go into a city or a small town like this and imagine establishing something that can be small. I mean, 60,000 people, that's like a couple of blocks in Baltimore. You know what I mean? That's not even a lot of people. You know, and it's like, imagine if you could establish some financial institution that really speaks to the needs. And a lot of folks are saying, you know, that's a show. I hear you, Danita, you're absolutely right. That's a whole show. But imagine like you establishing a credit union or a black bank, but a black financial institution that, as one of our watchers said, changed the whole trajectory. I think, Lana, this is what you said, should change the whole trajectory, the economic trajectory of the city. I'm just kind of blown.
It could. I mean, when we
man,
this is real. Like, and you know, and when we think about the way we are sorting now and repopulating, you know, I think we have to pay attention to the Youngstown that deserve our big city energy and our thought process, so we can go and literally activate new bodies of Black people who
I love it.
who need this level of injection, because if there is no Black bank, then there most likely is a there's probably a limit on the thinking collectively over that entire region. And so we need to be able to take our energy and literally resort and re-inject our businesses. So earlier I was wondering, like, whose responsibility is this? And so, you know, I think it's the responsibility of the new Black millionaire.
Yeah.
The new Black millionaire, you know, the one who has you're settled, you're established, you have some disposable income, you're wondering how to invest in where, you're looking at the stock market, you're looking at business, and you're figuring out where to take that new risk.
Hey, and I wonder, and to that point, B, and Jules, I want to get your take on this. Like, LeBron is from Akron, right?
Okay.
Like, imagine a person like a LeBron James starting a financial institution in Youngstown. And I don't even know if Akron has, I don't know if any of our watchers are from that area, from Akron or near Akron. I don't even know if they have a Black bank. But to your point, B, I think it would require that level of capital and that level of you know, you need to build like that level of fundraising for this idea of creating a financial institution. Jules, what's your take on that?
So a couple of things. So let's start with your LeBron point. So LeBron's Akron. Let's not forget Dave Chappelle is Yellow Springs, Ohio. So that's two.
That's true. There we go.
Dominant money moguls right there that can establish those institutions. But as we're sitting here having a conversation, I mean, again, me living in Baltimore, I know Harbor Bank, but then if I were to go to Laurel, if I were to go to Annapolis, if I were to go to Ocean City, like I'm talking about all the different places and different cities in Maryland, how many other Black institutions are in those cities? So it's like, are we just going to focus on the Black areas? Because I don't know Youngstown's population of white versus Black. So I can't get into the intricate details of, oh yeah, having a black bank here is successful, or oh, maybe they're trying to establish one and they're getting pushback from other institutions of financial or corporations that are stopping them from establishing a black institution of financial wealth in their communities. So I just like, that's something that I that will require more research, like the commenter said. Like, that's a whole nother show. That's an actual whole nother hour topic, because one, it takes me, I don't like speaking on anything I don't do research on. So I don't want to put myself out there, speaking on Youngstown, speaking on different other institutions in black cities that don't have establishments, not knowing what obstacles they face on trying to establish. Because who's to say they didn't establish or try to establish a black institution? When he was talking about I forgot what office, what political office he said that was under him, that his first 3 years, basically didn't show no results. He had to replace. Well, how many times has this happened with financial institutions? Like, I'm trying to get a loan from this. I mean, us, growing, trying to get houses. I mean, I went with this one bank, it didn't work, so I had to go to another bank. It's like, how many times have we faced pushback and then turned to a source that was of our same color, of our same background, of our same culture, to try to get me that same thing to achieve? So it's just like, that's something that I want to do my due diligence of doing the research on. But I definitely feel like, again, discussing with even Youngstown, with having Chappelle in Yellow Springs, with having LeBron from Akron, what resources could, both of them have so many ownership businesses underneath of them. What part of financial wealth have they, partnered up with to bring it into that city? Or to, I'm pretty sure probably in Columbus. I'm pretty sure there's a black bank in Columbus. Let's just be honest.
He said that's the closest one. That's 3 hours away.
Yeah, and that's 3 hours away. So I get it. So now that we established it's in the major city, Baltimore is a major city in Maryland. What other cities in Maryland with black banks?
All right. Well, see, here's what we're dealing with. There are 42 black-owned banks in throughout the United States.
How many states are there?
There's 42.
Okay.
How many states are there?
42. There's 42.
50 states,
50
54 American territories with the territories.
We'll do a fact check. So there's 50
So
states.
we also have 32 black-owned credit unions. Okay.
Just 32.
Within that. All right. Within that word. And so
cities?
they are in various cities. All righty. So we have Carver Federal, Liberty Bank, Industrial Bank, City First, One United. Chime is evidently a black-owned financial institution. So I mean, these are Googleable, but it totally opens up, I guess, a wider situation. We put a lot of energy on the small business, but when we're seeing major gaps of big business, within cities, within states, and then we spend our hard dollars trying to create our small businesses to make $10 into 20, and go through all of these issues. I think now I can really fully grasp the disparity in the situation, but I don't think it's about, I think it's really about us being able to, we have so much room to go underground. There's so much room to go underground in so many different ways.
What you mean by underground? You mean there's so much room?
There's room. There's room for underground development, because because what we're experiencing kind of is what happened as a result of integration. And so integration literally spread us so thin to where now we operate in these pockets and we don't know what the other one is doing because we don't need to.
Right. And see,
because so that's an issue. And so because we operate in our major cities that are connected to these other major financial institutions, and within that, boom, we got a black bank, and so we feel like we're doing something, but because we don't have an actual pipeline to black commerce in Youngstown, we're not connecting our dots. And
I agree.
Just on a modern day green book. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's exactly what I was about to get to. What I was going to say is that I think that a lot of times, well, there are a number of reasons as to why people don't always, and I'm speaking of Black folks, why we don't always bank with Black financial institutions, right? There are a number of reasons. Some of them are very legitimate reasons. I don't want us to ever get into a space where it's like, oh, if you don't buy Black, if you don't bank Black, therefore you ain't Black. No, there are some very legitimate reasons, right? And I think that most of the time we just don't know. We don't know. There is no directory, quote unquote, right? I remember years ago, and Jules, you probably remember this when we were working together with my nonprofit organization, right? And one of the big things that we try to work on here in Baltimore is creating a directory of youth organizations. So that way you can go to one source for all of your youth development, youth leadership needs, right? And based upon, and we created this directory based upon what they specialized in and the type of work and the age of youth, and broke it down all of them to that matter. But we don't have those things. Right. And I think that's the type of space that we're in now. Like, a lot of us just don't know. It's not that we wouldn't want to bank Black, but we just don't know. I mean, if you have 42 Black banks across the country, but you live in a state like Ohio, where if you live in Youngstown, you got to travel 3 hours to go to Columbus, or you got to travel some distance, like, you from Youngstown to Yellow Springs, they say it's 226 miles. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to do
that to bank. You're not going to do that to bank. Yeah.
You're not going to bank like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just about having something, it's about access, it's about availability, it's about making sure it's got to be all of those things. For example, Jules, you asked this question looking at the demographic, and I pulled it up. According to the census, it said from 2020, I guess this is 2020 census, 49% white in Youngstown, 42% Black. So it's almost, and then you have 6% of other races. So it's almost like 50-50. You know what I'm saying, in Youngstown. And again, you're looking at a population of 60,000 people. So
that's a stadium size.
But see, it's an opportunity.
Right.
He also mentioned that there were at least 2 to 3 zip codes that were also collectively below poverty line.
Right.
Right. So this already kind of paints a picture, of the current financial or economic ceiling that is right now over the city, over the state, that both Black and white suffer from, for reals,
Right.
And so when we think about poverty, we know that poverty is not a Black condition. Poverty is a poor condition, and in our country, it is that the numbers are drastically, going up every month. Those who are, experiencing poverty, and that's real, and so with gas prices and inflation and everything just bizarre in a pandemic, like we're not, but we are, that's still limiting a lot of the potential growth economically, of the entire world.
But that's
yeah, go ahead, Jules.
I want to, and I also want to state this, and this is because, again, this is a nationwide realization, and I don't want it just to be focused on certain small cities or small towns. So let's not try to, and I'm not talking about us as far as the culture crew members. I'm talking about literally the world, the viewers who's watching, people that will see this later. Let's not also think that it's something that's going to happen overnight or something that's going to happen microwave fast. We're just getting into it. If you're just saying that there's 42 institutions, yeah, there's 50 states, but how many cities in those 50 states? So 42 out of, I'll just throw a random number like 1,000. 42 out of 1,000 is a very small percentage. So let's think about bigger opportunities we can do. So let's just take, for example, okay, we know we have major banks. You have your your Wells Fargo's, your Bank of America's, and then now they're putting black executives in there, so people feel like, oh, now that they got a black executive or black president, I can bank with them.
bro.
That don't mean nothing. So here's the thing I'm saying. Well, let's not just think about using those, because again, we're using them. I'm being 100% honest, and this is truth serum at its finest. I use major banks because of the convenience, because I can go anywhere to get what I need to get. Well, let's also take on the other route. Okay, with a black bank being established, it's not saying I have to do a checking account or a savings account. Why not establish an IRA? Why not establish a CD? So I have something going into that black institution, whether I still bank with my white institution or corporate institution as well, but I have a retirement plan or I have an investment plan set up with this black institution that's still getting money from me pouring into it. That's all it takes. It does not take that for you to change your whole perspective and mindset of banking and doing what you have to do. You can literally take the smallest amount of money that you have, put aside to save for retirement, put into that black bank, and then let that grow. And then you can do things like if you work a job that you get a 2-week paycheck every 2 weeks, you can take that same bank account number, put it into your on your pay stub online and say, hey, I want this amount of money to go into my IRA every check. I want this amount of money to go to my CD every check. And that's the small steps it takes to establish the bigger, overall goal of growing and developing these black banks. So when other cities and states see, these are the type of tools and tips that are working to grow our bank, we can use the same thing instead of just establishing, hey, we only open this checking account for convenience because the bank is right here. No, we also have this other establishment of this black institution, this black financial partner that can also fund and produce for our communities, and that can grow into other cities that need these type of things.
No, that's an excellent point, brother.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
Excellent point, bro. And Janelle checked in and says a couple of things. She said, first one, she said, as of 2021, 44 black-owned and credit unions, black-owned banks and credit unions have approximately $8.12 billion in assets, right? Then that's still small money.
Small money.
In terms of, it's a lot, but it's small in terms of banks. When you think about Wells Fargo, it's crazy. Because Wells Fargo has gone through more changes than we go through underwear, right? It's like
Virginia,
they go up and down, and guess what? They always seem to come out. They probably financing people's homes even after that whole situation when Obama was in office. But you got Wells Fargo, you got Bank of America, you got Capital One, you got all these banks. So $8 billion, but this is 42 financial institutions, not just one. Though it's still considered to be small money, but I think to your point, Jules, is saying, look, we can still provide support. We can still put something in there. Maybe it may not be our personal check-ins and savings, but it could be our business checking and savings, right? You can get a loan from it. Like credit unions, for example, if you're buying a house, of course, if you're buying a car, credit unions have traditionally better interest rates than your banks on the loan. So, there's a whole lot of things, but here's the other part about it. And I think we should really have a bigger conversation about this. The fact that when you're a part of that FDIC, that's that federal board that regulates banks, right? When you're a part of that network, there's a lot of red tape. There's a reason why. And I don't want to go conspiracy theory on folks, but there is a very real reason why, even as rich as black celebrities are, there's certain industries they just cannot truly break into. Now, you could build a school, for example, in Africa. But how much red tape will it take for you to build a school? I'm talking about build a school in America. You can put a black person into running the school. That's one thing. But I'm talking about from inception to, like building a school. Same thing, I think, for the banking industry. I think there's a lot of red tape for establishing a financial institution, especially a black-owned bank or black credit union. There's a lot of red tape. That's probably why we're not seeing as many of these institutions across the country. And
but that's also why cryptocurrency is real. And is thriving and is growing, and we will have more black injection into those methods, and so that's really I'm seeing a bigger picture now, but you know, Farajii, they know I personally don't find joy in Juneteenth. You know, but I do understand why we need to trademark everything in the quote unquote culture. All right.
Yeah.
But, you know, ironically, I personally don't see joy in Juneteenth, you know, like, and so the only joy in Juneteenth I have is perpetually being CP time, you know, straight up, you know, because that is that not what Juneteenth is? Is that not?
They got that.
Isn't that not what I got free late, so I'm gonna be late. It's a new time now, you know. So if anything, you know, the Joy Juneteenth is a Afrofuturistic movement that should be manifested in the way we occupy the streets on a regular basis. You understand? Like,
That's
so
what I'm saying.
ain't
I
no.
mean, look, I get you. So you're saying CP time is because of Juneteenth? We got the word late, 2 years late.
I'm just saying
and as
the
a result,
irony in us, the irony in us policing our time and people policing our time when the in captive people who built this entire land got the message late.
Hey,
So
listen.
the irony in that just shows me that I can cellularly show up when I show up because I'm still gonna get the job done.
Hey, Farajii. So I know I know that the show is ending. I know that the show is ending, and I'm looking. Okay, we got another show next Monday because I want to piggyback on what B said, and I got a topic for you that got me in trouble. And I ain't gonna say got me in trouble. Like, it's just a discussion we were talking at work. And speaking of Juneteenth, and I was just talking about, you know, how now it's become marketable from other cultures for Juneteenth, the same way they're doing LGBT and Pride. That's a discussion I want to have for next Monday, Farajii. I want to leave people with that. I want to have a discussion about the marketability. They're trying to compare Pride to Juneteenth. We had a whole discussion at work. I want to talk about it.
Let's talk about.
Oh, then we gonna get a J. We gonna get a J in the thing now. We gonna get a J. It's going.
I'm gonna be what wait a minute, time out. Juneteenth is June 19th. So what, we 13 days away from today.
I thought it was the 18th.
Is it? No, it's the 19th.
She been funny.
It was the 18th.
Oh my gosh, you on CP time? She gonna be like Juneteenth is June 21st.
I'm like, we ain't free yet.
We got 2 days.
Oh, I gotta come back to my bad.
It was 2 days.
We gotta have this discussion because we was having this at work. I want to have this discussion.
Hey, no, let's have the discussion. But I think to that point, like, we do need to preserve history.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like we do need to preserve it. But it's crazy though. It's crazy. Like, cause I don't think anybody ever like thought of, you know, it crossed their mind to be like, yo, I'm going to trademark Merry Christmas.
Right.
I'm a trademark Happy Kwanzaa. You know what I mean? Like, you can technically, but see, there's some things that like.
I will say, and this is just me being difficult, whatever. Shout out to Target. I worked for Target last year. Target recognized Juneteenth as a national holiday, so they gave us time and a half. Shout out to Target. That's the way you do it. Shout out to Target. Shout out to Target. That's how you do it.
Shout out.
How do other companies are doing it?
Wait a minute. Janine's saying that Juneteenth is going to be, the federal holiday is June 20th.
That's the Monday.
That's that Monday. It's like they do the same thing like they did with Dr. King.
Dr. King Day, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Dr. King weekend. You get the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that
Farajii. Farajii. So Juneteenth is Father's Day this year.
Yes.
Then,
yes.
right?
I think
yes, for this year. For this year, yes.
This year. Okay.
For this year, yes.
That's dope.
So you celebrating. So again,
that's what's up. So if anything, then that's the day when we, you know, held up dope black men, black dads, you know, because at the end of the day, when we talk about freedom, there is no freedom without our Black family, and there is no Black family without our Black dads and our Black moms and our Black children, you know. And so it's like, in that respect, you know, this is going to be a fantastic Juneteenth
and look in
celebration,
Baltimore,
you know.
and y'all know here in Baltimore, and folks, we're gonna be out there. I'm gonna let y'all know, but y'all know in Baltimore, our African American Heritage Celebration, which is AFRAM, which is one of the biggest cultural events of the city, has, of course, B, you've been part of it, Jules, you've been part of it, I've been part of it. That is happening on the weekend of Juneteenth and Father's Day. So that whole weekend is going to be a celebration of our history. It's going to be a celebration of dads. And one of the things that I know the mayor here, Mayor Brandon Scott, did was to make sure that AFRAM, he said it, he said that AFRAM will take place on the weekend of Juneteenth every single year. Like he made that into a law, a policy, as a way, which is cool, because I don't have no problem with that. I think it should be. You know what I'm saying? Like it shouldn't be just some random weekend. It should be connected to something. You know what I'm saying? But I think that here's the thing, and we're going to certainly talk more about it. I don't think, and y'all have heard me say, I don't think we should have a traditional celebration of Juneteenth like we would probably have some other holiday. But there are some ways that we can honor our ancestors who got the message late. Now, if you think about it from that vantage point, how we can do it, we got to figure it out. Like, look, we got to figure this out.
Give me an example.
I got examples. I got examples. I got tons. I'm ready.
You know what, B?
Let's talk about Walmart, since they were the ones that jumped out there first with their black.
No, we're not talking about Walmart.
No, we're talking about us.
Listen what I'm saying.
We don't want that ice cream, Joe.
That's what I'm saying. So after ice cream, how about you feature the same way you do Halloween and Christmas, an aisle full of Black-owned products that get marketed and broadcasted to us.
Okay.
That we're
I'm not
using.
a problem with that. I'm not a problem with that, right?
Okay,
Here's what we, and I think this is where the culture comes in to differentiate between Juneteenth and Black history, because in some way, shape, or form, it's all going to be just thrown together.
Right.
We're going to be like Black History Juneteenth, whatever you want it to be. Like, do you bring out the red, black, and green for Juneteenth?
I mean, it should be Mardi Gras for real. If that's the case, you know what I'm saying? I think the Negroes want Mardi Gras in the streets, everywhere, RBG flags, boom, boom. Everywhere, Juneteenth. No?
It's
I mean,
going to be
are
interesting.
we supposed to celebrate, or do we celebrate, or do we set the city on fire? Which one?
Both of them.
Do we celebrate or set the city on fire?
You feels me? Like, let me know what the people say, and then I can curate how you.
Do we celebrate or set the city on fire?
Both of them.
Both of them.
Both
Man,
of
we're gonna end this show right here. We gotta end
There
this
we
show.
go.
We gotta end this show. No, but see, next week, hey Jules, I want you to send me your idea for next week.
I got you.
Let's have that conversation because since everything is going to be happening this year, like at the same time we're celebrating Pride this month, you know, there's all this is happening. It's like you got to make sure, and this is why I say this is why this platform is important. I mean, for real, talking about culturally important, because we're gonna have Black folks that are going to be confused. Like, okay, it's Juneteenth, it's Pride, it's Father's Day, it's this, it's that. So you're gonna be wearing different color shirts. I'm a proud dad. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna be looking.
Ooh, that's a mean ass flag merger.
Got your hoochie daddy shorts on and
with the RBG flag.
With the RBG flag on one side and the Pride
and the rainbow cuffs.
All right, enough, y'all.
I gotta go.
Is that what the people want?
Yeah, I'm out. Hoochie daddy, I'm out.
Be fly, Jules P. Thank y'all so much for being on the show and always being good for the culture. Thank y'all.
Yes, there we go.
All right,
All right,
fam.
peace.
That's going to do it for us. Make sure y'all continue y'all support the Black Star Network. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. You need to cut their sound. Thanks, Keenan. blackstarnetwork.com. Support us. Look, we're going to have these conversations. We're going to have these conversations, and we need your support to do it. So make sure y'all support us at blackstarnetwork.com. Or if you don't have any financial resources to support us, which we understand, it's a hard time for folks. So you may say, I don't have it today. All right, fine. Let your family know that Black Star Network is free to subscribe to. You can download it on your phone, your smart, your tablet, or your TV, and you can see the beautiful programming of Black Star Network live and in living color wherever you are. And of course, we have those dope ass conversations here each and every day about the culture. So make sure y'all support us at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we got some new episodes. Like I mentioned last week, Dr. Carr's Black Table is out right now. The latest episode of right there. Get Wealthy has dropped. So make sure y'all tune in. Just tune in. We always got some dope programming all happening right there. You could see it right there. Thank you, King Keenan. And put that out there. Just let people know that we need your support, Black Star Network. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Up next, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, my big brother Roland Martin, Unfiltered. Make sure y'all tune in for that. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. Tomorrow, we bring it back, Dr. Gerald Horn. Again, we appreciate your patience with our technical difficulties earlier for our audio, but we'll certainly have that conversation about Russia, Ukraine tomorrow. Also, there's a new poll that shows that Black voters' support for Biden has diminished, according to this new poll. Let's talk about it. Have you lost faith in President Biden? We'll have that discussion. And we'll also talk about the world's biggest 4-day work week pilot has begun. Y'all know how I feel about a 4-day work week. Let's please, let's do it. We can do it in this country. They're doing it in other countries. Why can't we? We'll have that discussion as well. So all of that and a whole lot more tomorrow on The Culture. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here exclusively on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon, family. Peace.